Hey everyone, welcome to the Smart Economy Podcast, a production of neonewstoday.com. I'm your host, Dylan Grabowski. This episode of the Smart Economy Podcast is part of a handful we will be releasing on gaming and blockchain. In this episode of the gaming series, I chat with Andrew Jekimochev, the community lead of Blockchain Cuties universe. BCU is an NFT trading and collectible game that launched in 2018, which spans across multiple blockchains and is integrating a land map style of gameplay. Its NFT-based characters have unique attributes, can be equipped with items, and can even be bred to create new characters. In this conversation, Andrew and I talk about the nuances between traditional and blockchain-based game development, the origin story of BCU, how the community shapes the project, how the blockchain gaming space has evolved over time, and much more. Just a reminder, nothing said on this podcast is a solicitation to buy or sell any tokens, that nothing should be taken as financial advice, and that the host or guests may hold tokens discussed in any given episode. With that said, I really enjoyed chatting with Andrew, and I hope you enjoy the conversation too. Hey guys, welcome to the Smart Economy Podcast. Today, I am speaking with Andrew Jekimochev, the community lead from Blockchain Cuties universe. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Hey, Dylan. Glad to be here. Doing well, man.
Thanks for joining. A lot of your community might know you online as Tenfi. So just to let people know that that's your handle if they want to know who we're chatting with.
Yeah.
So to kind of jump into this, what's your background and how did you stumble into the blockchain space?
It kind of goes in like deep into the roots, honestly, in a way, right? I think for a lot of people, it does. I started to play video games way back when I was a kid, and internet in the early 2000s was a neat place to be. We sort of see this with Web3 right now, right? So kind of similar vibes, but it was a little bit more 90s, I guess, right? Stylistically. And then I went to study graphics design. Obviously, internet, graphics design, everything kind of goes in together. And later on, I kind of met with Vladimir through our mutual friend way back in, I don't remember the year precisely, but like 2000s, like I think late 2000s, right? And I did work with one of their companies that he worked for at the time, helped them out, helped their community lead to do some streams and stuff. I was like very into Twitch very early on. So we did like shoutcasting and stuff like that just for fun. We went our separate ways. They did other things, and I was studying and started working in like different jobs. I was a waiter. Then I was a salesperson for a big consolidator for airlines for like 2 years nearly. And then when I quit that, I started looking for new work. And actually, Vladimir hit me up on Facebook and was like, "I have a project in the works. Would you like to join us?" And like that spiraled into what we have now. It was 4.5 years ago, roughly. And yeah, kind of went in and never looked back. I didn't know I knew about blockchain tech very, very little when I started, but I did know what Bitcoin is by, word of mouth and stuff. But in general, it was more about the game. For me, it still is. It's just the tech itself also brings a lot of value to me as a gamer in a way, because that's the dream: grinding gear, doing stuff in a game, and then actually making a sale out of that if I want to. And this is kind of like the core value we have within the team as well, which is really cool. So I guess that's how I got into this. I wouldn't say it was a premeditated thing. I just kind of in a way fell into it, but at the same time, it kind of fit the mold in a way.
That's super cool. My journey into blockchain started with, post-college. I got my first job working at a grocery store, And then I became a canvasser, which is a guy who stands on the street with a binder asking for donations to a charity.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a learning experience. And after a few years of that, went to grad school to become a city planner and did that for about 5 years. And then just got disenfranchised with the way that like government processes work. And I cared so much about building urban cities for people on a broad scale, but things just took so long. And when blockchain and crypto kind of hit my radar in 2017, it was kind of like mind bending, because here you can work on a global scale, but blockchain and crypto is such an innovative and new tech that it's all on the cutting edge and everything happens so quickly. So it was nice to have this kind of like macro impact, but not necessarily have to wait years and decades to see your efforts kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and it sounds really cool that Blockchain Cuties aligned with your gaming expertise, just wanting to be a gamer and to learn more about gaming. So it sounds like you kind of come from being a gamer, coming into the gaming aspect of this project. Like, is Vladimir and a lot of the other people on the team, so Vladimir Tomko is the CEO of the project.
Yeah.
Do these folks come from like a gaming background?
Well, Vladimir, he always was interested in making games from what I know, right? So way back when, one of his like, I guess, treasured memories in a way, right? He had like a Neverwinter server, like a shard running, which he kind of made from scratch, right? So lore, he built like locations and stuff like that. So like when he was still, I think it's in school. So yeah, it kind of like everything kind of built up to it in a way, right? So if you look at the background of Vladimir, you look at that background for me, for example, I've been playing CS competitively. I have been playing Dota competitively.
Cool.
Like basically all of the Call of Duties up until Black Ops 4, right? So with friends, basically I have been always a hardcore gamer. I played everything that you've heard about pretty much, except for like maybe World of Warcraft. Just not my thing. I'm more a runny shooty guy, right? But it kind of was in the back of my mind, wanting to make games, wanting to make a difference in this world, in gaming aspect of the world, right? And Vladimir have been consciously doing it, right? So he went into making fan-made modifications, fan-made content, basically, but in a much more broad way. It's just not content; it's just like a game, and it kind of spiraled out from there. He have been always analyzing games and stuff like that. I have been analyzing the games in a little bit of a different way. He went into more marketing, meta building, and stuff like that. I've been mostly tied into meta analysis for CS, for Dota. Obviously, you have to learn like metas and stuff like that. So it's been building up to Blockchain Cuties in a way. And here we are, basically.
So the whole reason I want to ask is it sounds like the Blockchain Cuties team predominantly comes from kind of just like a passionate gamer sort of perspective, and that maybe you guys hadn't worked in like any of the big gaming studios that put out like AAA games or anything like that. So something I noticed in the past year or so, and Blockchain Cuties is going on its 5th year of existence. So I want to tie into this experience, but something with like Axie Infinity. This was the team's kind of first game. So they came from the blockchain space and made a game. Whereas you're starting to hear like from the other side of that perspective, like you want gaming studios to come into the blockchain space and integrate blockchain because there's going to be a very like stylistic difference in the way that the game is put forth.
Yeah.
And maybe like if you listen to a VC podcast, they say, oh, we want to go with a gaming studio who comes into blockchain because they know how to make a fun game. But I think on the opposite side, there can be an argument made for like a blockchain-based team that makes a game. And I kind of put Blockchain Cuties in that camp because it seemed like when Blockchain Cuties first came out in 2018 and started integrating with Neo in 2019, that it was very blockchain focused, and then the game kind of followed on that. So maybe just like philosophically speaking, from your perspective and from the insight you've gained over the past 4 years at Blockchain Cuties, what kind of team makes a good blockchain based game? Is it a gaming studio team that came into blockchain, or could it be like a team that worked on a blockchain project and then chooses to make their first game?
Well, that's a really good question, honestly, because within the last year alone, I personally did a lot of digging on that, like soul searching on that aspect, right? Because blockchain gaming is like a fairly new concept as a whole, right? And I do believe that it's kind of a mix of both worlds, right? You have to make a fun game for people to play it, but at the same time, if you make a blockchain game, you have to take in the economy into consideration, because the general rules that apply to, say, World of Warcraft and other games like that, they break the economy if you like attach blockchain economy into it. So this is what we did on our end as well. There needs to be a limitation, right? There are limitations in blockchain Cuties that we introduced over the years. Like, for example, we added personal items, for example, that are sort of like soul-bound items, right? But at the same time, we give opportunity to players to actually, unbind those items and sell them on the market anyways. But it's kind of the restriction through game design has to be made, which we did with personal items. So during seasons, for example, people get items, they are personal, but they can use crafting system to unbind them and sell them on the market to other players if they wish to. This kind of removes the aspects of like botting and stuff like that, because as we all know, there is this section of the quote unquote player base, quote unquote, in this case specifically, that just make hundreds of accounts and try to bot a project, try to milk it for everything it gets, and then just leave. And to sustain, there has to be precautions taken for that. And the regular gaming world doesn't necessarily agree with that, because they don't care about that aspect usually. And the blockchain aspect kind of lives on that in a way, right? There has to be sustainability in the economic cycles in the game. Unlike WoW, even though WoW, if you look at it, let's say 10 years ago, and now the inflation is still there, right? The gold is not as powerful as it was when the game started, but it's less impactful. One of the most important things that we learned over the years is that when a blockchain game is being adjusted, right? So like you get feedback, you see problems, you have to fix those problems, you kind of change game design, you change a little bit of balance. That in a normal game is fine, right? It's not as painful. You just get used to it. With blockchain games, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because people spend money on like maybe buying the item, buying a character, buying crafting slots to craft the specific items because they needed them to be done in time and stuff like that. So those things come into play, and they hurt like 10 times more for the players than they do in regular games, which is a really, really important aspect, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that's because there is that financial and economic model? Like if I want to participate in a season or go on a raid right now, I have to drop like, I don't know, X amount of gas to purchase a character that can do that, or I need to spend my time grinding to get that character up to snuff to be able to participate.
Well, yeah, that's sort of how it goes, right? That's how the world works in a way, right? You either spend more money or you spend more time. That's the general consensus of any economy, really. So in our game, that's very similar. So you can start with nothing and grind, get items, sell them, get more cuties from like the revenue that you get. We had a few players that did that. It takes a little bit of time, but you can actually get pretty strong accounts with that. So that's pretty cool, I think. And not a lot of games can sustain within that paradigm as well, which I think is something that people should start thinking about when they start to make the game, right? We stepped on many rakes as we went on, as we say, right? There's been, obviously, as with any game, there are always problems that you have to solve, and we do pretty much that every single day.
something that I think is really cool is you yourself and Blockchain Cuties are now OGs in the blockchain and crypto space. So over your 4 years at the project, and you've almost been with Blockchain Cuties since the inception. I noticed that it was launched or founded in December 2017. And in 2018, you started working for the project.
Basically, how it went is like the first line of code was drawn in December 2017 when the whole idea kind of took place. So the development started. The beta launched on April 26th of 2018. On May 26th, I came into the office, basically. About a month after the game kind of launched, I joined in with the team and kind of never looked back. I mean, as an experience, not a lot of people would think it's a lot of fun, but that's why we're here, kind of in a way, right? You don't get onto the bleeding edge of tech, right? And into a new part of, gaming and tech without, sleepless nights and stuff like that. So the team has been working nights, even weeks sometimes, with barely any sleep. And for me personally, right, it's kind of fun. I like doing that. I'm a night owl myself, and going for like 3 days without sleep, working and doing something really cool is something that I do like. Obviously, in due time, the age will take its toll probably, but hey, we don't live forever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I often say that one of the things I liked most about the urban planning field was actually like studying use cases and studying examples in school. So like looking back fondly on any urban planning stuff, it was going to a coffee shop and researching papers and writing. And now in the role I have with Neo News Today, I feel like I'm researching every day. So having to learn everything because it is so cutting edge is also, the sleepless nights and the long time spent grokking something that's also very rewarding.
Yeah, you kind of have this like in the back of your head, oh man, I wish I could take a nap right now, but I have to do this, this sucks and all that. You kind of have this like grumpy on the side sometimes, but then when you're done with the task, you're done with the research, or you're done with like something specific that you have been doing for a bit with gritted teeth, you finished it just barely because it's been a long time coming. It feels so good. I don't know. I haven't felt something in this way when working other jobs.
Yeah.
It's a very different way of how like you reward yourself in a way. I know it can sound kind of like weird, right? But I think a lot of developers have this mindset where they want to do something specific, and when they do it, they're like, okay, this was worth it. That's great.
Kind of building on your experience, looking over the past 4 years, what are some interesting or unique ways that NFTs have evolved, or maybe just gaming in the blockchain space in general?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of things have happened over the 4 years, right? So in 2018, there was like the CryptoKitties, us, and Axie, pretty much. And there have been a few projects here and there that were that had pretty good ideas as well, but there are very many different variables in place. So for some, it didn't work out. For some, it's they didn't figure out something in time or something like that. So obviously, it's not an easy task to kind of get a product off the ground in a niche market as it is. So it's basically a niche within a niche, because a lot of people that are into blockchain are more into like financial aspect of it, not necessarily like the fun aspect of it. One problematic thing that happened early was like those pyramid farms and what have you, right? There were a lot of things that kind of muddied the water. And during 2019, it was a little bit less problematic, let's say, because a lot of people kind of figure out that, those are scams pretty much. The hot potato games, the pyramid games, obviously for a lot of people, they look at it and like, yeah, no, I'm not going to participate in that. At the same time, some people looked at it, was like, Yeah, but I can manipulate it, right? So people had this like I can game the system aspect of it to their thought process, and a lot of money was lost, pretty much. And 2019 was a little bit more chill in that regard. A lot of projects came out of the woodworks. A lot of news happened. Like Axes started to do a lot of cool stuff. The Dapper Labs have been working on their cheese wizards, I believe. There was a lot of like, I don't want to say noise specifically, but there was a lot of activity going on. I think that's the proper word for it. It wasn't like noise. It was
Frothiness.
frothiness, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it was like quite a bit of pretty good activity comparing to 2018, where a lot of people got scammed. But, scammers come out of the woodworks pretty fast after they just go back, rethink their approach, and just jump in. So we still have these NFT collections that are pretty much nothing, right? It's just, hey, look, a picture, which kind of baffled me in a lot of ways because when we talked about our game, we always put utility and game aspects in the forefront of it. Because while yeah, cool picture, but what can you do with it? Like that's one of the main questions that I think everyone should be asking, because unless that NFT does anything, it's kind of a useless piece of code, honestly speaking. If you can utilize it in the game in some way, shape, or form, maybe it's like a clan invite. It can be well, like basically anything game related, even, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be like a fully fledged utility token. Like for us, it is like Cuties are quite robust in terms of what they can do as an NFT. But a lot of people just put in a picture, slap on a picture on it, and say it's gold, which is the fool's gold, I think. The most important takeaway, I think, is you have to ask questions about the projects. Like, what does it do? Can I do stuff with it within the ecosystem? Can I do stuff outside of the ecosystem? Like, these questions do matter.
If I were to kind of derive what you just said, is it sounds like utility has kind of grown for what NFTs can do over the past 4 years, but we still kind of have this boom bust cycle where scammers might come in and out and take advantage of people based off of the hype surrounding the technology at the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at how blockchain and crypto stuff kind of evolved within like 4 years, right? When I came into it, it was kind of looked at as shady because all of the stories with the darknet, the Silk Road stuff, all of that kind of made the news everywhere, Europe, US, whichever, like you saw it online all the time. And people kind of looked at Bitcoin and crypto stuff as shady instead of a piece of technology that was misused. I was one of those people before I joined the team as well. I was like, I don't know, man. It looks kind of shady to me. Everything I read is kind of suspect. But when I joined the team, I started to learn. Obviously, the learning curve is quite steep still, even though there's a lot of headway made within the last 4 years alone. It's still a big learning curve, especially when you start with one blockchain, then you realize there's more, and there's like every single blockchain works differently. It's kind of nuts, right? But at the same time, it's a lot of fun when you kind of figure out things and how they work, what are the philosophies that are behind those blockchains from the dev teams, what they're trying to do with it is really cool. And a lot of people just don't go past that, sadly. Not because they're like one way or another. They just don't need to. They don't have to. And it's a lot of information in the first place. So if I wasn't doing this for work, maybe I wouldn't even be this educated on blockchain as well.
Gotcha.
But it is worth it. Honestly, it is worth it in a lot of ways.
So something that I kind of want to pull your brain on is, what are the interesting game mechanics that Blockchain Cuties offers through NFTs and NFT-based characters?
All right. So if we talk about like the Cuties as NFTs, first and foremost, I think we should talk about Genome. Like CryptoKitties had Genome, we have a very similar thing. That's kind of the play from CryptoKitties in the first place. That it was a great idea from Dapper Labs, and we kind of played off of that with the breeding mechanic, right? You can make cuties, you can make tribute cuties, which are, special kinds of cuties. We have unique cuties that usually we sell or you can get during events. And within that genome, we added stats for attributes. Like when you breed a cutie, you get like a line of attributes. And all of these attributes give stats or like buffs or debuffs and stuff like that. So you can get elements, you can get whichever stat the cutie can have. So there are, I call them specialist cuties, right? So for example, we have a list of adventures that you can send your cuties to, and all of these adventures are element based, right? So if you have the element, it kind of gives you a buff. The thing with that is you can actually breed like stronger element cuties if you know what you're doing. And we do have like a section of our community who are kind of tribute hunters or like genome aficionados, if you want to say that. And they kind of figure out better compositions for breeding pairs and figure out best case scenario genomes. And there have been quite a few earth bears. There have been like energy hedgehogs. So each cutie type has its own strengths, and people figured them out and kind of started like building meta builds, which is really cool. Going further from that, we want to extrapolate from that, right? We initially started adventures as a little addition to the game, but it kind of like grew in its own right. Like people started playing them more, they started strategizing, kind of liking it. So we kind of went into developing it more. So stats came about. We added elements. We added drop pools now. Previously, it was somewhat of a bottomless pit that you can farm, but now it's a little bit more balanced in a way that there is a limit, like a finite amount of items within a time frame. So you can't just like everyone send in like cuties and get gear anymore. There are some fluctuations of loot and stuff like that. So additionally, you can go to raids. So battles are like kind of the cornerstone of the game. First of all, adventures, you go to adventures, you farm gear, you find potions and stuff like that within those adventures if you win. If you go to raids, also you fight the raid boss, do damage, and based on that damage, you get into the leaderboard and get prizes based off your damage done within the same raid. There are like different types of raid bosses as well. The newest one with like HP based mechanic, it's kind of a hybrid from what we did before, which was basically a win-lose ratio for the community. Like the first raid boss was thought to be like if 51% of players win their battles, everyone gets prizes. If they send in garbage just to participate, obviously that's going to be outweighing the wins that are more meticulous and kind of balance it out with the community. Like the community has the steering wheel here. That's kind of the approach we always went in with a lot of mechanics. Obviously, there are drawbacks to giving the steering wheel to the community. Obviously, there are people that want more and more and more. There are people that just want their own way and stuff like that. So, but that's the beauty of it, of the like community-driven development. You talk to people all the time, and then you figure out things, which is really cool.
Awesome. So I'm really glad that you touched upon the community, because for kind of these blockchain-based games to get off the ground, there needs to be an active and engaged community. And, being in the space for 4 years, you've probably had the chance to kind of like watch your community start off slow and then kind of gain traction. What's that been like over the past 4 years? What was your community engagement like in 2018 and 2019? And what's it like today? And what is the real power that the community actually does have in shaping the direction of blockchain cuties?
All right, let's start with the beginning, as you said, right? So initially, when we just started, obviously the OGs of the community are the ones that join in just to check it out. Like they're about the fun of it, like specifically only about the fun of it. They want to check out the tech, how it works as a game and stuff like that. And, our artwork have been always quite detailed comparing to a lot of other projects, and I think that's one of our kind of strong suits. And the artwork just gets more and more and more and more complex and more pretty. And like I always gush about like our artists doing like their best work every single event, and they just don't stop like developing as professionals, which is really really cool. Like if you look at the Cuties that we released in 2018 and now, those are drastically different like not approaches but like styles, even though the artists are pretty much the same. It's just the style gets developed as you go along. There's more techniques developed and stuff like that, which is really really cool. And the style is kind of the same, like the like chibi kind of style, like bigger head, smaller torso, kind of cartoonish and all that. But at the same time, there's much more detail, much more depth to the artwork right now. And I think that's one of the attractions for the game, for like the initial impulse, I guess, to kind of check it out for a lot of people. And if we were talking about the 2018 community, which was just 20 to like 100 people, which is not that small already, but considering the numbers, it's quite a bit smaller. But it was it is a tightly knit community. There's people helping out each other, even though they just met here. There are like alliances made and stuff like that. There have been drama as well, obviously. Looking back on it, like when it happened, like I was super stressed. I didn't know what to do with it, like how to, help out there, so everyone has a fun time. Now it's a little bit different. It's definitely different. We still have quite a few, OGs that started in 2018 still, which I do think is one of the something to be proud about for the team, right? That the community stays. A lot of blockchain games and like blockchain based communities come and go. People move on, people figure out some cool stuff, maybe forget about their previous communities that they were a part of, or kind of get, like I said, disenfranchised with whatever project they have been working at. Maybe they talked to like community mods, they talked to people in the team, they just didn't like them and just decided to leave. Like there's many different reasons why people can jump ship. And we have quite a lot of people still in the community that were joining in 2018 and have became great advocates for what we do. When Tron hit, one of our players, Paul, have been going off. Like he helped people get onboarded with Tron. He believed in Tron from the beginning and they had a lot of fun with it. He taught people how to do stuff, showed them how to train, gave them cuties and stuff like that. It was nuts. But yeah, the community now is slightly different. The people are there still. I mean, those OGs are still there, but at the same time, a lot of new faces came in. So like the whole mode kind of shifts back and forth in a lot of ways, which is good. You don't want to get everything stale, right?
So this is a protocol agnostic podcast, but I myself have been covering Neo since 2018. So I can completely relate to what it's like to see some OGs who have stuck around, the same Twitter handles, the same Discord handles that have been talking over the years. And then as time kind of goes on, you lose some of them. Of course, with a cryptocurrency like Neo, you can lose them because the price drops rapidly, just like with almost every other crypto out there that can happen. And you just lose people because this happened to their speculative investment that they made. And now they have attached a negative emotion to this thing that happens in such a new speculative market.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you also have these new folks that are coming in and they bring a new level of passion. And they also don't have that kind of, I don't want to call it baggage of history, but they don't have these memories. And some of them might have been bad. Like my NFT got frozen when I was trying to move it from chain to chain or something like that. And so they just don't have that bad taste in their mouth.
No, well, I guess, yeah. But at the same time, it kind of hinders on the people who run the project as well, right? So what we do is we run, like, basically I'm a community lead and I help out with tech support all the time, right? If something is wrong, people write to our like general chats and we don't DM ourselves. the rule basically, because people like to DM like, "Hi, I am support. Here is link. You click link, and it's gonna be great.
Trust me."
Yeah, bro, trust me. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's like, this is how it works. Like, bro, trust me. It is absurd, right? And we started to do this as a procedure on our end, as well as that people ask questions about like tech support and stuff like that in general chat. We try to help out if there's any like more sensitive details that are being discussed. Some people don't like to share their public wallets even, right? So I usually write like, DM me your issue like with more details. I'll try to figure it out and help you out. And that kind of helps along with the community building as well, I think, where the community knows that if they have a problem, they can go to the developers and ask questions, and they will try their best to help out. Obviously, it takes time, it takes energy, and obviously I could be doing different things, but I do think that's one of the vital things that a lot of AAA companies, if we circle back to the question that you had before, how AAA companies do it, they automate everything, right? So they kind of corporatize it, which I understand why it's done, because there's so many people that you can't handle, right? But at the same time, if there's even a fraction of that you can do live as you go through your day, helping like one or two people even can make a huge difference, right? They can become your advocates, they can become your OGs that will stick with you for years to come, because they know they can lean on you if they have issues. And that is an important bond, I think. As a community, you have to kind of nurture the community members and let them know that you're there, good or bad. Like, they can sling mod at you, they can scream at you for like whatever you did. Like, there are obviously things that go on through development, like you develop an idea, you push that idea into the community, and they're like, nah, that's bad. And like sometimes people like very, very heavily lean into like letting you know you're wrong, but you don't need to take it personally. That's one of the most important things. The community lets you know what if they like viciously tell you what they know, and I mean it in a good way, they can go super heavy on you, calling your names, calling you stupid and whatever. That means they like what you have been doing so far, and they care for the future. That is a very important aspect of it. A lot of people kind of brush it off. Within like 2019, 2020, we had quite a bit of a rough patch in a lot of like development aspects. For like, there were botting attempts, there were quite a few things that happened that were not, let's say, great to go through. But at the same time, those are learning opportunities that kind of made us what we are today in a lot of ways. Like, the personal items came out from that. There have been seasons started and reworked into what they are now. We started to kind of world build, like we added lore into the mix. So we started to write different characters and stuff like that. And people like that. But in game mechanics, it's a little bit more complex due to the blockchain nature. So you have to like balance it out. And this is where people start to kind of bump heads with the developers, because they see it the one way, we see it the other way. And through that conversation, we figure out things. That is one important thing that I think a lot of developers don't do. Even though they say they do, it's not exactly that. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a like sort of a tangent in a way here, but I hope you understand what I mean.
No, I get it. I have witnessed several NFT projects where maybe development isn't occurring as fast as people would like, or communication patterns aren't as strong as people would like. And when you combine emotions and basically money, you can get some strong reactions from people, because there's such an emotional attachment to an investment, and you have such a direct relationship with the developers that you can just yell at them and say, hey, devs, do something. Now, I think something that keeps me humble, that I try to remember when I might have an interaction with someone that kind of sets my temper off or maybe rubs me the wrong way. Most of the world doesn't speak English, and a lot of online communication is in English.
Oh, yeah.
So this is somebody's second language, and
if not third.
Or third or fourth even. And so for a native English speaker who kind of gets rubbed the wrong way, I have to constantly remind myself that this just might be an error in communication. And maybe I should take a step back and try to understand the content of what the comment is, rather than like paying attention to the words that might have been used improperly, or maybe they were a little too angry and the person who made the comment didn't realize the impact of that word because this is their X language.
Yeah.
So that's something that I try and take into consideration myself. Kind of wrapping up, because I know it's getting late in your neck of the woods. I want to talk about what the next steps are for blockchain Cuties. Now, you've talked about iterating off of experience, adding items, adding adventures, all of this you've learned. And I've noticed that something next on the roadmap is this land-based sort of wartime game that's coming out. So could you tell me a little bit more about Wars of Cutie Lands, how lands will be represented as NFTs, and just kind of what the goal is for this next iteration of blockchain Cuties?
Yeah, sure. Where Cutie Lands have been in development for quite a bit, right? So, and making a grand strategy, I believe it's called, with constantly updated map. For example, if you played Travian or something of that nature, it's kind of similar for that, I guess. There's a lot of mobile games that are pretty similar to that as well. But with blockchain, it is a little bit different, right? So obviously there are islands that we have been selling. Depending on the island, I think all of the islands are kind of outside of the general map, which is, I think, was 2 million cells. So there's a huge world map that we drawn up. If you dig a little bit, I think you will be able to find it on our Twitter. I can take a look a little bit later to share it with you if you want. So basically, there's a huge map with different parts of the world, and obviously there's going to be different resources and stuff like that within that map. The blockchain aspect comes in with the islands and the Cuties. So the Cuties are going to be the war power in a way. So you will be able to kind of transfer your Cuties from adventurers to military, pretty much, and utilize your Cuties in buildings as well. That's one of the plans for the future, where these Cuties will be able to kind of mine things, craft things, the usual it's not a usual mechanic. It's just we talked about it for a few years already. There's been a lot of stuff going on with it, and it kind of became the norm in a way. One of the most important things will be the island itself, where you craft your armor, you gear up your soldiers, you get generals, you get artifacts for those generals that give buffs and stuff like that. But those artifacts are going to be on the map, so people will have to fight for them. It's hard to kind of explain everything in a few sentences. I'll try my best to kind of summarize this. I know I went many different ways right now with the previous sentences. So it's a grand strategy game, right? Where Cuties are soldiers. You have generals that lead them. You'll have armies. Obviously, the armies are going to be dependent on the amount of time you put into your account. So there's going to be upgrades and stuff like that going on with that. There's going to be a lot of events popping up on the map. And one of the most important things is that depending on your blockchain for the island, you'll be fighting for that kingdom. This is where it gets meta, right? You have to get territory.
That's awesome.
And whichever kingdom is going to be more powerful depends on the players entirely, right? So the developers give you the sandbox and just let you do whatever you want with it within its realm. And I think there's going to be a lot of power struggles and stuff like that going on. There's going to be wall builds where people just put in smaller armies across a specific border, for example, as they do in other games. There's many different moves that people do on those grand strategy games, and all of that is going to be blockchain reliant as well. So you can use NFTs, you can use your islands to level up your buildings that you build on those islands and stuff like that. One important differentiation within the islands is that every island up until the founder lands are going to be outside of the map. So you kind of like ship your army onto the land and kind of build there, right? But your HQ is off the map, but you still can get attacked and all that, like the usual. But at the same time, the founder lands are going to be actually on the map, right? So there's going to be capitals for the kingdoms, and those who got the founder lands will be able to show off in a way. So their cities are going to be available on the map right away for everyone to see. And obviously, for some kingdoms that may be less populated or less powerful, the territory can just shrink up to that capital. That's the only thing that cannot be captured. But quite a lot of territory can be taken away. And it's going to be interesting to see how the community is going to rally into like these blockchain clubs in a way, like alliances.
Yeah.
To fight for territory and power. There's a lot of politics that's going to be done over blockchain as well. We have BCUG, which is a governance token. We use it for like new idea votes right now. And there are some utility that comes into the game already, but the main event is going to be in War of Few Lands, where people will vote for their kings of the kingdom and stuff like that. Basically, there's going to be like policies that gives buffs, debuffs, and stuff like that. So it's going to be a huge undertaking for players in a way, but at the same time, when they learn it, it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
That sounds really cool that you're going to have factions based off of what chain people are using. And also a really cool way that it sounds like the BCUG token is going to be used for kind of like governance DAO like purposes. Do you notice a specific chain that most of your users are using?
For about 2 years since we added it in end of 2018, Tron was very, very popular, right? So it was very populated because it was very cost effective. A lot of people got into it. They figured it out. Obviously, in the last year, they did some changes to how they work and price ranges and all that. But at the same time, quite a lot of people went with Tron. But I do think there's like, until it's out there and we see the data, I can't really say. There might be some people that like see the launch and they're like, all right, I'm getting this like an island of this blockchain, and I'm inviting my friends and we're gonna kick butt. Like there's definitely gonna be people like that, and I'm really excited to see how the kingdoms are gonna be fighting for power, and it's gonna be really cool to see.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun to follow along. And if you ever have any kind of like Neo-specific news or information, I would love to cover it for Neo News Today.
Yeah, sure.
But other than that, as a blockchain enthusiast, I look forward to seeing just kind of how that plays out moving forward. So if anyone wants to get involved in blockchain cuties or buy a blockchain cutie or help the team develop the game or the project, what's the best way that folks can get involved or get connected with Blockchain Cuties universe?
Well, obviously, you can join in the discussion on our Telegram. It's been the main hub for us for most of the time. We do have a Discord as well, where people can drop in, so suggest ideas and stuff like that. Obviously, they can ping me on Telegram, Discord, Twitter, whichever suits them. We do have a Twitter as well, pretty active. And basically, any social network that you can find us on, you can pretty much like hit us up and like let us know what you think and ask questions and stuff like that. But like best course of action would be Telegram and Discord. Those are the most active channels in terms of like live communication, let's say.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming to join the Smart Economy podcast. It was really cool to pick your brain on Blockchain Cuties. We've been covering the project since 2019, and I just love chatting with OG teams who have continued to build through multiple boom bust cycles. So again, I want to thank you so much for coming to join, and definitely looking forward to catching up in the future and following along with all the progress that Blockchain Cuties is making.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Honestly, it was a lot of fun. I can gush about our projects for quite a long time and about the tech. So always happy to join in.
Totally. Well, looking forward to potentially having you come join the pod again at some point in the future. And until then, have a good one.
Hey, man. Thanks. Laters.
Cheers. Well, what did you think of that conversation? I thought it was really interesting to hear more about the differences between the development and economic models of traditional games versus blockchain-based games. It was also really exciting to learn more about the different types of blockchain Cuties universe players and how token economic incentives align with their style of gameplay. And I'm looking forward to seeing the blockchain network-based factions that will arise in the forthcoming Wars of Cutie Lands game. On that note, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Smart Economy podcast. If you liked what you heard and want to support the show, please keep Neo News Today in mind when voting for your Neo Council representative as part of Neo's governance process. We appreciate you and look forward to catching you next time.